On the 24th of February 2022, Russian tanks rolled down Ukraine, sparking a powerful response from the West. Within hours of the invasion, Western cities were flying Ukrainian flags. Western journalists had flooded their feeds with war coverage, and Western dignitaries were making pilgrimages to Kyiv. The Ukrainian president was turned into a Churchillian figure as the hashtag Stand With Ukraine echoed around the world. To put it simply, the West showed unprecedented unity in the face of Russian aggression. It imposed sanctions, halted operations in Russia, welcomed Ukrainian refugees, armed Kyiv to fight Moscow, and punished oligarchs who were close to Vladimir Putin. Throughout 2022, this support echoed far and wide. But nearly 12 months on, is this support beginning to wane? Is there a fatigue setting in? Is the NATO becoming war-weary? Do Europeans want the war to end? I ask these questions because this conflict has challenged the most basic assumptions of Europeans about their security. It has brought the spectre of nuclear confrontation back to their continent. It has disrupted their economies, triggered an energy crisis, and led to shortages of food. These challenges have led to a recalibration, a rethink of sorts, on how long can the help to Ukraine sustain. I have data to back this. In Spain, a survey was conducted recently. It asked Spaniards their opinion on the war. Almost 50% of them said that it should end at the soonest, even if Ukraine had to sacrifice some territory, even if Ukraine had to make concessions to Moscow. This survey is just one reminder of how tired people are of this war. And it's not the only one. A similar poll was conducted in the United States. It asked American citizens which issue should be Biden's top priority. Inflation received 38% votes, energy crisis 12%, healthcare 15%. What about the war in Ukraine? Only 8% of voters said that this should be a priority. So what do these surveys tell you? That people are tired of this war. They want it to end at the soonest. I'm not saying this, the developments are. Just look around you. Social media interactions on Ukraine have dropped. Journalists say that it has become harder to sell stories on the war. People's attention has shifted towards domestic problems, and the leaders are fighting each other on who's doing more to help. So where are things headed? Will the war end in 2023, or will it escalate? Will it unite the world against Russia, or will it divide Europe further? Will new camps emerge in the days ahead, or will old alliances crumble in the face of new temptation? These questions are complex, but I'll keep the answers simple. Hello and welcome. I'm Priyanka Sharma, and this is Gravitas Plus. The war in Ukraine has completed 1 year, a year of destruction, death, and human misery. But despite all of this, neither side appears to be on the verge of victory. Neither side appears ready to accept defeat. One could have said that there is a deadlock on the negotiating table. But the fact is, there is no negotiating table at all. So where is this war headed? How will it play out in the second year? Could it escalate any further? Two recent speeches may hold some answers. They were made by the men waging this war: American President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. I'll start with Biden. He recently traveled to Ukraine, walked around on the streets of Kyiv, and declared his unwavering support to Volodymyr Zelensky. He said America will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. In fact, the very next day, Vladimir Putin appeared before his countrymen to deliver a State of the Nation address and talk about the next phase of this war. In attendance were hundreds of Russian government officials, oligarchs, and journalists. Russian citizens watched his speech on their TV screens back at home, and during the speech, Putin declared his biggest message of intent. He proclaimed that Russia can't be defeated, not diplomatically, not in the information war, and definitely not on the battlefield. He said no matter how much the West tries to threaten Russia's existence, the country will bounce back, undeterred and indomitable. Both these speeches have made it amply clear that neither Russia nor America wants this conflict to end. The question is, what's next? How far are the two willing to go? How long are they going to fight? There is no clear answer, only a host of possibilities. But even if there are possibilities, what exactly are they based on? Well, we've spoken to experts and compiled 4 ways in which they think this conflict could play out this year. The first scenario, Ukraine recaptures its territory. Throughout the war, Western governments have continued to supply aid and weapons to Ukraine. Now, if that continues, Kyiv's forces could translate that into more battlefield success. Experts say by July, they could be able to retake large portions of land. And if that happens, the West will be more than willing to send more weapons to Ukraine. But for now, this is just a scenario. Scenario number 2, Russia snatches victory. All signs are pointing to a renewed push from Russian forces, a push likely involving thousands of soldiers and battalions. If this offensive succeeds, experts say that Russia could possibly annex all areas east of the Dnieper River and make a puppet state out of what's left of Ukraine. But this entirely depends on how far Putin is willing to go. Scenario number 3, a stalemate and an armistice. This is a big possibility. Experts say if neither side makes any significant gains this year, they could soon become exhausted and come to an agreement. Yes, it will be a painful one to make compromises, but analysts expect that one day both Moscow and Kyiv may realize that peace is the only way forward. However, the terms for how the fighting could end are murky. The current outlook for a negotiated deal would likely involve Ukraine ceding some territory to Russia. Will Zelensky do this? We highly doubt it. And that brings me to scenario number 4. Vladimir Putin gets ousted and the Russian state collapses. I know this may sound far-fetched, but this too is a possibility. Here's why. In the last few weeks, divisions have started to emerge between Russia's fighting forces, between the paramilitary groups and the Russian army. Again, I'm not saying this man is. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder and owner of the Wagner Group. Of late, he has been taking aim at Russia's military leaders, accusing them of withholding supplies to his group. What supplies? Arms and ammunition. Prigozhin says that Wagner is not getting them on time. He says this is a crime of the highest order, one that deserves to be dealt as treason. Yes, in a series of hostile audio messages on his social media, Prigozhin has accused Russia's top military leaders of treachery. Now, why would they do that? Aren't they fighting on the same side? Yes, they are, but they're not achieving the same results. You see, the Wagner Group, under the command of Prigozhin, has made some significant gains on the battlefield, especially in Bakhmut, a city that has become the focal point in this battle. The Wagner Group has tightened its grip on this city and taken over surrounding villages in a series of assaults. And these gains have pushed the group to the forefront of this war. Many in the Kremlin consider it to be the most capable fighting force in its arsenal. On the other hand, the Russian army has suffered heavy attrition in recent weeks and lost control of several previously captured territories. These humiliating setbacks have raised questions on the army's proficiency and credibility, and this has given people like Prigozhin a chance to corner the army generals. And he's not alone. The head of the Chechen Republic is also upset with the generals. In January this year, he criticized the Russian military's decision to ban beards, calling the decision archaic. He urged the generals to focus more on the war and less on reading the military code of conduct. This was last month. This month, a new report has emerged. It says that Ramzan Kadyrov is planning his own mercenary group. He announced this decision on his Telegram channel. So where are things headed? Is there a confluence of interest among Russia's fighting forces? Are they planning to forge an alliance against the Russian military? Whatever be the case, these developments don't make for good optics, especially now, when reports suggest that a new offensive is around the corner. The question is, how will Moscow wage this offensive when its own army and fighting forces can't even see eye to eye? It certainly needs to start listening to those on the battlefield. And as for the Western countries, they need to start listening to their people. You see, after 11 months of the war, most people in Western nations say that they want their leaders to focus more on internal issues. Issues which they say have been sidelined due to this war, like the multiple crises which have plagued Europe. We can't forget there's high inflation, a shortage of gas supplies. Plus, the Wuhan virus is not going anywhere. This is what they say should be the priority, not just the war. As they say, only if leaders listened to their people, this world would be a much better place.